Of these next two games against the Ravens and the Giants, which one should Browns fans be most nervous about?
I think I'm going to start with, I'm going to go with this Monday night game against the Ravens because for them, it is such an incredible must win game. I mean, they really need this game to try to get themselves or keep themselves in the playoff conversation. If they lose this, they're pretty much not going to make the playoffs. So they have to have this game. They of course will, they need it for AFC purposes and those kinds of things. And they've been through heck. The Baltimore Ravens have been through heck, and now it seems like they're getting guys back. They're getting Calais Campbell back. Lamar Jackson is back. Obviously, he missed this past game. And this is the kind of game that I think John Harbaugh is going to really get these guys up for, and let them know that it's basically a must-win game for them. And I think he's really going to have them 100% ready to play this game.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Mary Kay, and perhaps Dan, I'm positioning you to have to take the New York game here. But with everything Mary Kay said, and then this on top of it, one team has Lamar Jackson and the other doesn't. And when you see what he did last night, I understand it's the Dallas Cowboys defense, but if there's one guy who can just take over a game and beat you and will his team to victory, it's going to have to be Lamar Jackson as we head towards the end of the year here. And that's the position I think this Ravens team is right now. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen on Monday Night Football. It's just the fact that he is capable of doing such a thing. And when you see New York, they're, of course, respectable right now, but there's just, of course, on paper, not as much that frightens you. On top of that, it's a divisional game. And I understand that the Browns did beat the Ravens once last year, but I still think there's some big brother demons to exercise here with, of course, the Ravens beating the Browns the past two games late last season and then to start the year this year. So it's a mindset game. It's a reality check game, and there's just more at stake for the Ravens and, of course, the looming threat of Lamar Jackson. So to get this one on Monday night, of course, in a primetime stage like Monday night, even though the game has been flexed now, I think the combination of all that makes this Baltimore game as high stakes as there's been.
So I'll make the case for the Giants. I was thinking about making that case anyway. Look, I think the Ravens on primetime and national TV is like the whole world is watching to see if the Browns are for real. I think the Browns kind of announced against the Titans. We're seeing people buying in on the Browns now after that Titans game. But this is like the moment where everybody's watching on Monday Night Football. And everybody's – so, yeah, if you go out and lose by 25 or 30 points again, like, it's going to be the same old Browns jokes. But here's my case for the Giants. If you lose to the Ravens and you don't get run off the field, if it's just a normal run-of-the-mill loss, Ravens backs against the wall, throwing everything at the Browns, I think you could, eventually this team's going to have to be able to beat the Ravens. But I think you can kind of shrug that off and say, okay, look, this team was due for a loss. The Ravens had to win this game. They were the more desperate football team. All right, let's move on. The Browns still, all they really have to do is beat the Giants and Jets. They get to 11 and they're in. I doubt there's any sort of situation out there where they're at 11 wins and they get left out. So to me, that Giants game could potentially throw a wrench in everything, especially if you do lose Monday night. And then if you go to New York and lose to the Giants, who I think is, even though they're playing well, that's a team you should beat. Myles Garrett should get 4 strip sacks in that game against Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones should be back for the Browns game. I don't think
he might be back this week.
Yeah, he might be back this week. So there's a good chance he will be playing against the Browns. So I don't think it's going to be Colt McCoy against the Cleveland Browns. So, but I still think that, that this Ravens game is one to be a little bit more nervous about, because if you do lose this one, then it puts a whole lot of pressure on that Giants game. It puts a lot of pressure going into New York and knowing that you almost then have to win that because you have another tough matchup coming up against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, and the obvious point here is going 0-2 in prime time, as Dan said, would now be the same old Browns joke, despite the incredible season they're having, sitting at 9-3 right now. So splitting these is a fine world. Getting the first one against Baltimore puts them on the right track. But I couldn't agree more, Mary Kay. A slip up on Monday night makes the Giants game a little more difficult, and then you're still staring at the Steelers in Week 17.